Добрый день. Давайте, пожалуйста, начнем нашу встречу. Я рада представить нашу гостью, которая у нас в гостях в Нижнем Новгороде благодаря нашему сотрудничеству с фестивалем Викса. Это бразильская художница Вивиан Каккури. Очень приятно с вами познакомиться и иметь возможность побеседовать не только о вашем творчестве, но и о том, какие корни у того искусства, которым вы занимаетесь. Я думаю, что это будет очень интересно нашим зрителям. И, как всегда, я первый вопрос, конечно, хотела бы задать о детстве, потому что понятно, что очень часто корни того, чем мы занимаемся в нашей жизни, они находятся в детстве. Я, если честно, читала в вашем интервью историю про то, как вы пришли к занятиям искусством. Я знаю, что вы родились в семье музыкантов. Расскажите, пожалуйста, эту историю для наших зрителей.
So I was born in São Paulo. And São Paulo is a big city in Brazil, and it's very important to say that I'm from a very warm country. And usually music in Brazil happens within certain circles, social circles. And my grandpa and my grandma, they were both musicians, but they were opposites. And my grandpa was a percussionist, and he used to play the bongo, and he was a very loud person, very loud man, a very wild person. And my grandma was like a very classic person that played the piano. He was fascinated with black music and all kinds of music, and he invested all the money that he had in sound systems and stuff that was new, like laser discs.
То есть он был не просто традиционным музыкантом, который играл на бонго.
He was a person that loved music and started playing drums. And this is usually how Brazilian people start playing an instrument. They love the music and they start from the ear, never from tradition. Sometimes tradition, sometimes we do go to conservatoriums and music academy, but 95% of the people, they start playing songs out of the affection and by the ear. So we are improvisers.
И вот это были ваша бабушка и дедушка, и, собственно, от них вы переняли интерес к музыке.
Yeah, not sure. I love the radio, so I was constantly listening to the radio, and I love tapes. Tapes were my way of starting recording and waiting for a song and recording the song, and so I think the radio played a very big part in the way that I think of music and love music and collect music as well.
И потом была история с побегами на рейвы.
2002, 3, I don't know, I think I was 14, 15, and electronic music was already big in Brazil, so we had major DJs that were famous in England, and things were picking on in electronic music, and I used to fake my IDs to go to raves. And I used to have a boyfriend that was also, we were criminals, partners in crime, to fake IDs and go to raves. Okay. And sometimes they humiliated me and just destroyed my fake IDs in front of me.
И изначально вы хотели стать музыкантом. Меня, собственно, интересует момент того, как вот от музыки вы перешли к тому, что стали заниматься искусством, связанным со звуком. Вот как это произошло?
That's very interesting. I think it has to do also with digital culture, in a sense. I had a guitar, but the guitar, I did not have much skills to compose. I felt like that I still had to learn a lot. So electronic music was my way in to compose. And I think as digital culture got bigger and more democratic in Brazil, I learned a lot from other people and having like tools like a computer. Then that's when I started planning my compositions and composing after that with instruments as well. So I think I started from the opposite way around.
И тем не менее, вы все-таки от сочинения электронных композиций перешли уже к арт-объектам, связанным со звуком. Как произошел этот переход?
So I think the way I look at music is a bit more expanded. I of course I pay attention to the sound, but I love the behaviors and social behaviors that are around music, and I think they tell a lot about how music is important for us. I love the idea of a song changing someone's life, and it means that it not changes only someone's life, but sometimes cultures. And what if like a song changed history? You know, I like to understand music as a way to transform society. So instruments and machines, I think they are the things that are closer to our bodies. And I remember this African guitarist, he plays this kologo, it's a different kind of guitar, and he said that the instrument itself determined what he is as a person. Stevo Atambiri. So I think these objects, they have like a certain magic, and I like to understand how this magic works.
Вы сейчас, на мой взгляд, высказали очень важную идею. Рассказав историю о ганской версии гитары, вы, по-моему, как раз очень здорово показали, что в области как раз звуковой скульптуры и современного искусства возникает ситуация, когда музыкальный инструмент сам по себе из средства звукоизвлечения становится объектом, на который мы смотрим. Готовясь к нашему разговору, я познакомилась с вашими работами, и меня как раз привлекла вот очень эта работа. Я так понимаю, что она была сделана для выставки в музее Прадо, правильно? Она называется «Хрупкий тритон», «Тритона фрагил», да? И это, в принципе, объект, имеющий форму традиционного классического музыкального инструмента треугольник. Но треугольник, действительно музыкальный инструмент настоящий, делается из металлического сплава. Именно за счет этого у него такой звонкий звук. А ваш объект сделан из стекла, правильно?
Yeah, it's glass. It's glass.
Расскажите, пожалуйста, об этой работе и о смысле этой работы.
I'm interested in the triangle because in Brazil it's a folk instrument, and in orchestras the triangle is seen as like a stupid thing, like the easiest thing to do. And I'm usually interested in this kind of instrument that is like kind of like understated. So I started researching about the origins of the triangle, and it was the main instrument of huge religious rituals. So that was in Egypt, and then when it went to Europe, it became a stupid thing. So I like to go back in time and perhaps think, what if in music, like nowadays music, the triangle was the most important thing. So I have a larger installation that is in the presentation. So it was a huge triangle hanging from the ceiling with about 300 triangles, and I invited musicians to play underneath it. It was a museum, one of the largest museums in São Paulo, And they had a lot of artworks that were contemporary and extremely old, like the one on the right, and with triangle motifs. So I created like an altar to triangle, and there's the balalaika there.
И я знаю, что сейчас работа, которую вы готовите для фестиваля в Иксе, в ней тоже участвует балалайка и исполнитель на балалайках.
Yes. So through this work, I came in contact with balalaika, and because of the shape of the triangle, so it was like an abstract shape that made me go to balalaika. And then the glass object it happened right after this. I thought of like a silent triangle, but there's a temptation in this, and I like this, ambiguous feeling. You really want to play, even though you know that you're gonna break it.
Это очень показательная история, показательный кейс, в котором мы видим очень важный момент вашего отношения к творчеству и к тем объектам, которые вы делаете. За одним объектом стоит целая история, вы ее исследуете и через этот объект рассказываете зрителю.
Yeah, exactly.
И я еще хотела бы поговорить о другом аспекте вашего творчества и вашего восприятия сути искусства. Мне бы хотелось поговорить о непосредственном воздействии звука и на непосредственном его восприятии. Вот я помню то интервью, в котором вы рассказывали про ваши побеги на рейвы. В этом интервью вы сравниваете свое эмоциональное состояние на рейве с экстатическим эмоциональным состоянием, свойственным католической религии. И в связи с этим я хотела бы обратиться вот к этой вашей работе, которая, по-моему, рассказывает именно об этом. Могли бы вы поподробнее пояснить?
Sure. This is called oratorium, so it's another religious motif in this. And these are all subwoofers. So that means that they're only like bass sound and no other kinds of sound, only bass. I was interested in the first ever, the oldest music found in paper in the Western world. And this is one of the pieces that are considered the oldest ones. And I studied the lyrics and the melody. This is Italian, and it was found in the 4th century. So the lyrics, they say how in the night you have to stay vigilant and embrace God to go to another world and then start another day. So it felt like a party to me. Like it sounds like you're going somewhere and then you want to have an experience, and then you will end your day and start a new day. And I started like just playing with the notes on the synthesizer, and I transformed this song into a danceable song. So I did that because I think I had a very religious upbringing too. I used to go to the church a lot, and I felt the church was, my body didn't move. I had to be like still, and this is something that made me feel very uncomfortable. So it was a way to make religious music about dance again. But it happens in a kind of serious way because the candles, they're something that is, present in religious places. They are reacting to the bass and they are dancing.
Я думаю, что здесь вот для меня в этой работе очень важным моментом является то, что здесь мы видим, как звук воздействует физически.
Yes, and I think that the bass is something that you feel in your like inner guts, you know, something that it's not about like brain, it's more about the body. And when you have a visual register, it's kind of like a metaphor of what's going on inside.
Мы можем, в принципе, услышать эту работу на вашем сайте, да? То есть наши зрители, да, могут, заинтересовавшись, посмотреть и послушать это на сайте, да?
It is on Mixcloud, and if you type Mixcloud Vivиан Каккури, it will show. Then you can listen. It's a version that you can actually hear in common speakers. So it's not exactly how it sounds there, but it's something that you can appreciate in like cell phone speakers.
В этой работе, вот в том числе, как раз мы можем почувствовать, насколько физиологично наше восприятие звука. И я знаю, что у вас есть другая работа, в которой вы исследуете, насколько может по-разному восприниматься тот или иной звук в зависимости от культурного контекста. Я имею в виду работу с москитами. Расскажите, пожалуйста, об этом подробнее случае.
In Rio, there are mosquitoes everywhere, and not only during summer, but all the time. And I love how people hate the sound of mosquitoes. It's a thing that are from nature, but people hate it. And I kept like wondering why people hate the sound of mosquitoes and why it's so uncomfortable. And I started just trying to understand the shape, the form of the sound, like what makes this sound so uncomfortable.
Если оторваться от контекста, то вот эти звуки и то, что в работе потом делает там такой комариный хор, они вообще-то довольно нежные и тонкие, вот эти звуки, но воспринимают их совершенно иначе, не как нежные, тонкие и приятные.
No, not at all. I think they are the opposite of birds, for example. Birds are here and mosquitoes are there. They are the opposites. And so that means that mosquitoes are also the opposite of music, because you don't know what they are doing and where they are going. You don't have like any kind of musical trust in what's going on. What's different from birds. It's opposed to music because you don't trust the sound. So I proposed in another residency like the one that I'm doing. It was in North Sweden, and I was supposed to create a piece for a large pipe organ. And in this work I'm doing a musical conversation between the pipe organ and the mosquito. And they are opposites as well, because the pipe organ is something that wants to take you to heaven, and the mosquito just reminds you of your like skin and diseases. And so the composition was this is the view of the installation. It was a 10-meter tower, and the composition, I think I was inspired by hallucinations, because mosquitoes in the warm countries, they have diseases.
То есть правильно ли я понимаю, что вот в Швеции вы встретились с гораздо более мягким восприятием, не таким катастрофичным восприятием звука комариного писка, как в теплых странах, потому что в Бразилии звук комара означает возможность заразиться желтой лихорадкой, а в Швеции такой опасности нет.
Yes, they are different. Like mosquitoes from cold countries, they are not. They don't bring diseases, but I think there is a colonial memory from mosquitoes, because colonization of the Americas, they are mediated by nature, and mosquitoes is one of the main elements that brought this colonial image of tropicality being something dangerous.
То есть получается, что вообще-то чисто природный звук оказывается в итоге нагружен какой-то культурной памятью.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it was interesting to bring pipe organ and mosquitoes together. And I think people understood what was going on when I brought them together. I felt that the contrast was so big that I think it brought a strange emotional atmosphere to the place.
В названии нашей встречи я вынесла название вашей книги. Я знаю, что у вас есть слайд, на котором видно, как она выглядит. Нам бы очень хотелось показать ее нашим зрителям.
So this is my book. It's in Portuguese, but there is an English version contained in a larger book with other articles.
И название, собственно, этой книги, которая стала названием нашей встречи, то, что я делаю, это музыка.
By the way, thank you for this amazing research that you made. And it makes me very happy that the title of the talk is O que faço é música, because it's a title of one of my favorite artists from Brazil, and it's something, the text that kind of like helped me to think this book, you know.
Расскажите, пожалуйста, об этой цитате. Откуда она, чья она?
Sure. This artist was not a musician, he was a painter, but music was his main inspiration, and he wrote a lot about Kandinsky as well. But he's from Rio, so well, reality is samba, favelas, and carnival, and so musicality means something else. So this artist was probably the first Brazilian to bring musicality to the art world in Brazil, like galleries and museums. And in his first performance that he brought samba musicians, he was expelled from the museum.
Для меня в этом названии содержится очень важная идея. Мне кажется, что это отражает ваше понимание работы. Мне хотелось бы, чтобы мы поговорили о разнице между звуковой скульптурой и звуки внутри инсталляции и музыки как таковой, к которой мы привыкли. Сейчас я поясню. Мне кажется, что ведь у скульптуры, у визуального искусства есть очень важное отличие от музыки. В музыке очень важен процесс. Это процессуальное искусство, а скульптура – это все-таки объектность.
Yes, but I also understand the music of sculpture, of an installation, as something that has to do like with the life of this object. Mm-hmm. So it's another. It's not another object for me. At least this is how the way I like to think. Mm-hmm. So that's why I don't like works that keep like looping, mm-hmm. because they sound like dead, mm-hmm. you know. And I also worked as a museum educator, mm-hmm. and these works used to make me go crazy. So I think about the educators and try not to do like repetitive, boring and dead kind of composition. So I like longer composition.
Но когда вы делаете продолжительную композицию для вашей инсталляции, не становится ли вам жаль, что вообще-то зритель, который придет в музей, он вообще-то имеет право не дослушивать эту композицию до конца. Он посмотрит, послушает чуть-чуть и уйдет, не прослушав всю композицию целиком.
Yes, but I think when a person goes to the museum is to change also their relationship with time. And right now, like we have like fragmented, experiences mm-hmm. of time. And this is perhaps like the main challenge for an artist is like the second screen. Mm-hmm. So when I make long compositions, I'm not meaning that a person will only have like a fragment, but in a way that the person will only get a fragment of an artwork. A person will never like attain the whole artwork. So I think this idea of like I had the full experience of an artwork. It's kind of like a utopic thing from the artist. I think it will never happen.
Тем не менее, вы совершенно верно сказали фразу восприятие времени, отношение к времени. Вот как раз в музыке мы можем сказать о том, что мы познакомились, допустим, с симфонией, только если мы ее послушали от начала до конца, а не фрагмент.
And also, but classical music has to do also with writing. And you can read, but my musical experiences also have to do with things that happened once and will never happen again. And I think like the South Hemisphere and music from the South Hemisphere, as we are more in tune with indigenous and black music and music from black nations, from African nations, we are not so concerned with the writing of the song, but with the experience of the song. And I think this is something that I bring in my experience. And I also release my the soundtracks of the installations. They usually become albums that I can put on Spotify and other platforms. So people have another experience of the work through through like a proper music track. Yeah, this one, for example, is the mosquito piece.
Вы как раз этим предвосхитили мой вопрос. Я хотела спросить вас о том, отличается ли для вас создание звука для инсталляции и создание музыкальной композиции для вот такого релиза.
Very different. And there's a lot of adaptations, like music production that I have to do to get the music out of the space to like the flatness of the vinyl. But I work with people that are usually mixing and producing and recording classical music, and they are very good at translating this kind of thing. It's a different experience.
Возвращаясь к вашему тезису по поводу особенностей европейской музыки, европейской музыкальной традиции письменной по сравнению с фольклорной традицией неевропейских народов, я как раз хотела добавить, что вот, пожалуй, во второй половине XX века наконец-то и с музыкой композиторской европейского авангарда постепенно начали происходить те же самые вещи, то есть в нее начала приходить вот эта самая спонтанность и уникальность каждого исполнения, которая была до этого свойственна фольклору.
And same in Brazil.
В связи с этим я хотела спросить вас о ваших культурных и музыкальных героях. Кто из художников, может быть, композиторов и, не знаю, там, изобретателей музыкального оборудования и так далее вам нравится, вам интересен и влияет на ваше творчество?
Several, but Brazilian ones are for sure Gilberto Gil. I've worked with him personally, really? And he was also the Minister of Culture, and so he's object of many works that I made, and I think he's one of like the biggest poets in my opinion, like musical poets. But right now I'm very focused in appreciating and researching works of women, like women from the past and women from now. So I keep doing long playlists of like only female composers. I like to do that.
Например?
So it started with Laurie Anderson. Which is, a natural way to start. And then I have like perhaps 4 playlists of 8 hours with Brazilian composers and European composers, North American, African. I'm very interested in African piano players and Middle East. So there are like several. I can also show where my playlist is. And there is a new, I think people are paying attention to this composer that she's now about 80 years old in Brazil, and she's called Josi de Oliveira, and she is one of our few contemporary opera composers. And this is something that I really want to have some time to know her and talk to her.
И в заключении, наверное, нашего разговора мне хотелось бы, чтобы вы анонсировали свою работу в рамках Викса фестиваля и немного рассказали о том, что ждет зрителей.
Sure. So it starts with the balalaika, and the balalaika, as I told you, was kind of my bridge with Russia, besides stroganoff. And I will do a giant balalaika made out of steel that is open, so it's just the back shell in the size of a hut. The sculpture will stay in Viksa at the public park.
Звуковая часть этого произведения будет в чем состоять?
So there will be a performance of balalaika players, and we have very little time to create something new. But I'm thinking of doing the same procedure that I did with the sculpture, which is opening the sculpture. I will try to find openings inside of the the score, and doing like some drone trance parts just by opening and stopping a few notes.
Я знаю, что вчера вы посетили в Москве ярмарку Космоску, и мне очень интересно было бы, чтобы вы поделились с нашими зрителями своими впечатлениями, насколько вам кажется искусство молодых художников в России отличается от искусства молодых художников в Бразилии. Вам здесь видится в большей степени отличие или наоборот какое-то сходство и общий контекст?
Can I just add one more thing to the Viksa? Thiago, who is my partner, he's there, and he will also play balalaika, but balalaika mixed with Brazilian music, and I think it's going to be really fun what he's creating. And for the Cosmosco, a lot of painting. I'm sure that an art fair doesn't show exactly what artists are doing because it's commercial. But I'm saying that because I also participate in art fairs, and what I can show in art fairs is not exactly everything that I do with sound and stuff. So I think in the museums I will have a better chance to understand what's going on in Russian art. But it was great.
То есть в итоге получается, что звуковая скульптура, инсталляция – это по-прежнему формат не настолько привычный для публики, чтобы он, допустим, легко бы на коммерческой ярмарке бы продавался.
I've done pieces in art fairs. It's challenging because all the neighbors hate you, and but I even like sold pieces, because one thing is showing, another thing is selling. And so when you have the imposition of selling the work, then you have to really format your work. So it's not the best part, I think, of creating, because you have to think commercially, and sometimes too many constrictions, but still it's value. It's also valid.
Тем не менее, получается, что винил продать все-таки легче.
Yes, and the glass triangle was great. It sold a lot.
Между прочим, виниловый диск ведь тоже в итоге становится объектом.
Yes, but I think at least Brazilian collectors, there are very few that are into vinyl. They I want to have vinyl. They want to have like a sculpture to put on their wall.
Огромное вам спасибо за разговор. Я надеюсь, что он был достаточно интересным. Спасибо и пожелания успехов.
Thank you for your amazing research. Thanks for coming. And I feel super welcome and very well welcome in Russia.